Welcome to American Black Metal Time here on Rauta, and this time we have both the CD and the vinyl version for review. Let's start with the CD, which I would say lesser format in terms of video reviews. This is something near third album by this given band. Mind you, there are more than two, there are actually three Haunt bands on Metal Archives alone, and one can only wonder how many more there might be outside metal which are not just listed. So two Haunt bands from United States, of which the bigger one is heavy metal, and then this black metal name from United States as well. Then there is a Canadian band with the same name, which is also black metal. Can get a little bit confusing if you just quickly search for the bands on social media and whatnot, so pay attention what you're looking for. And of course, links are provided in this video's description box in case you want to directly head to them. So here we have this black and white cover once again. The artist himself, I'm assuming, he has really his jaw dropped. Ha ha! So funny. Viking necklace, similar to mine, and then this corpse paintish image somehow reminds me of some Tåke covers from Norway. On the back side of this LP you will see the track listing and of course the label Demoniac Productions. Thank you to them and muchas gracias for this given album. Now inside the vinyl, which is always a little bit more than just your CD version, you will have this inlay with the lyrics and all, and then just other side is basically logos. And on top of that, because vinyl is indeed the premium version of any given music release version, here you have a poster. So can we call it jaw-dropping black metal? I think we can safely make that assumption. And finally, of course, we have the actual vinyl here, which is traditional black one. No gimmicks whatsoever. There's a beautiful sticker or inlay on the other side, and then the logo one on side A. For the sake of review, this review with the music is based on the CD version. I didn't have a reason to give both versions a go because it's essentially the same. So Salem, Oregon, United States. Salem is worth mentioning because there are lots of cities with the same name, and some people are not thinking Salem, yeah, it's the witch city, but it's different, state. Massachusetts. Salem, Oregon, then again, is a little bit different, and that's where this comes from, and United States. Well, let's assume anyway, Metal Archives is updated with the given information. That's not always the case, but you never know unless you know. So here it is, labeled as USBM. Themes are non-existent at the moment. Probably some people will eventually read the lyrics and feel it. And it says one-man band, which is something that you kind of get the information also from the releases themselves. There are other bands by the given artist, so sometimes you get this feeling which one is the main project and which are the side projects. Goes beyond the scope of this review, so it doesn't really matter. What matters is that this has been here out for now about 9 years, and 3 albums in, a self-titled one from 2017 and a following up album Grimoires of Undead Power from 2018, and now 5 years later, Something Near. This title is pretty peculiar because you can interpret it in so many ways. You can just say, hey, someone around here? But then again, I feel it's kind of a haunting title, like something is near, something out of this world maybe. Maybe it's just my imagination doing the trick, but I want to think it that way because it really gives this somewhat supernatural feeling, if you get the idea. So through this album, you have 8 tracks and almost 38 minutes, so pretty basic standard kind of a issue in that sense. And what can you expect from the music is raw end of black metal. So not exactly the most mainstream is with not, the melodies and all that stuff and fancy production, but more like primitive output coming from the caverns and dungeons and all, which probably already divides people into 2 categories. Those are like, okay, too lo-fi for me, I'm gonna walk away from it. And those who are like, okay, and now I'm excited, now you got me interested in all that stuff. Now, it starts with a kind of a borderline noisy production, and for a while it takes your mind to adjust to it, and we're like thinking like, okay, this is really lo-fi, can my pair of ears handle it and all? And once you kind of get used to it, surely, most certainly, this is not the rawest out there, but definitely on the rawer side of things, so I guess a word of warning is in place. When it comes to riffs and songwriting in general, I mean, it's kind of a usual. You would definitely put this in roughly in the second wave of black metal, which then again caters to lots of different needs and a lot of different bands, but saying there's nothing modern about it, be it about the production or songwriting or just individual riffs and all, yeah, it's kind of a traditional. The only exception to this rule is rather unusual outro, because it's basically baby giggling about and all that stuff, which is the reason why there are no lyrics mentioned here as the A track. It's a little bit off because it's kind of a heartwarming kind of an outro, which you would feel like it's more fit to fit in those pagan or folk metal bands, which are more about like, yeah, let's give birth to a new life and all that stuff. Here it feels a little bit out of place, more like you're going through around 36 minutes of something like crude, raw, primitive, cavernous black metal, and suddenly it ends with a kind of a nice outro. I don't know what's the story with that, but it just feels weird. It doesn't bother me, of course, because it's only an outro, really. So essentially, this takes you to a journey where your mind is probably set into the haunted houses, supernatural entities, and all that stuff. But if you're looking for really haunting and really dark experience, this is not delivering exactly that either. So while it's kind of putting you into the world of rotten mansions and places where no human really live anymore, yeah, I kind of get it. It's more about those old vet cellars and places like that. But essentially, the raw end of black metal is really what it promises to be: crude and uncompromised and all that stuff. But really, is there anything absolutely, setting apart? Not really. While this is totally, understandable and really to a certain degree quite enjoyable, at least very listenable, it's gonna really divide people into two categories, like I mentioned. Some people who have no absolute understanding or interest in raw black metal won't really get this stuff and won't like it. Those who do might be doing the comparison to bands like, Mutilation or early Graveland or other such raw end of black metal, even to early Dark Throne, and that's where it really, makes the difference. Some of those are really captivating, memorable, and all that stuff, whereas Haunt's third album is more like the general atmosphere. For me, none of the tracks really, stuck out. It's where like none of them were really about like, hey, these riffs are so badass or this song is so great and memorable and evil and all. It's more about the general atmosphere, which is just like, yeah, this is cut to do the job and it does it fine, but anything beyond that not really happening. So who I would recommend this to? Well, fans of raw or end of black metal, but not exactly the entry level black metal, because like I said, this is way too challenging, not only in terms of production, but also the general output. So maybe I'm not exactly agreeing with the praising 95% review with this given album. I mean, it certainly has its appeal, but then again, you really have to be a fan of this given style to really get those praising words out of it. This doesn't mean that this would be a mediocrity. This definitely goes on the positive side of things, but anything beyond positive, becoming great or whatever, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not this time. Anyway, if raw end of black metal is your cup of tea, give it a go. And like I said, go for the physical products if you like it. Versions out there are these CD and LP, which is not even listed here. And of course, you can start with the digital format if that's something you prefer instead of going for physical products. Links are provided in the description box so you can start listening. And if you like it, go buy it. Off you go and enjoy.